All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Last night, after the U.S. markets closed, and, they closed with a little bit of sell and then a little bit of rally and basically closed right where they opened yesterday, like we had talked about. After that, we saw S&P futures weaken overnight here in the first little bit, and then, stay flat through the ASIN sessions, and then Europe opened up, and it's been just a steady climb since Europe opened up. In fact, futures have moved 16 points higher during this European session, and so now they sit about 7 points up. Now, they were down about 9 points. Now they're up about 7. It's not monster movement, but, it's a little bit, happening here. And you can see it's, above yesterday's highs, right? So, gap up here today, and we talked, today, likely to be a gap, which way, who knew, but, a little bit of gap up. What does this mean? What does this do? Well, for someone like me who's looking for some downside positions, right, it says, hey, hold off. This morning's not your chance. This morning open is not your chance. And what do I mean by that? Well, I could stare at the market and go, well, I wonder if this stock is topping, and I wonder if this stock is topping, and I wonder if that stock is topping. And ultimately they could. But generally on a little bit of a gap after yesterday, what do I know is not going to happen? I know that yesterday's lows are not going to be taken out right away. Now, that may happen later on in the day, and if that does, it would set up some massive bearish engulfings. But it says, hey, you know what? It's still early. It's still early, and I'm not a big fan. I don't like that. I wish it weren't. But that's the reality from a downside perspective. From an upside perspective, from a bullish perspective, can you be a buyer out there? Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. You can play off the lows from yesterday. You can go buy a Bank of America. You can go buy a Caterpillar, and even a Home Depot. And buy them off of yesterday's lows. Is there tremendous upside? Some people believe yes. Some believe that there's tremendous upside to come, and some very smart, very intelligent individuals believe there's significant upside to come in this market. I'm not so sure, and I'll be patient for my for my downside entries if and when they set up here. So that's what we're seeing here in the pre-market. We're not seeing a lot of upgrades or downgrades. There's a few here and there. Wells Fargo was talked about with political risks, and Met Coal, Warrior Met Coal caught an upgrade. This is an interesting company. HCC. Let me pull it up on stock charts here. But HCC, Warrior Met Coal, this has been a company that's been outperforming here a little bit of late. They've had a nice little pullback, nice little couple-day pop here. But we back this out to a longer-term chart, right? You can see, hey, they just IPO'd. This is kind of emerged from a few fiascos, but this is a stock that opened up around 8 and is now sitting around 30, and it's one where you can make a good argument for 60. Is it going to be a lot of risk? Yeah, there's you could easily see this fall back to 14 and 15, but it's now been in a multi-month consolidation. To see this thing start to break out and break higher would not be a huge surprise. This is the weekly chart. You can see that consolidation a little bit better. But Warrior Met Coal caught an upgrade here this morning. Still a lot of talk about Boeing and the airlines, and some analysts coming out and defending the long-term fundamentals. Anytime you hear a company coming out and defending the long-term fundamentals of another company, the short-term is going to be rough. It's just that way. If they come out and their only defense is long-term fundamentals, the short-term is going to be rough. And it has been, and it will continue to be for these airlines, Southwest, Boeing, American, anything involved in this. You can see Boeing here last night after the bell. It was trading down. Now it's trading up. There's just not a lot of price stability here with them. There's a lot of news out there with them. And, it's one where the path of least resistance is going to be lower in the short run. And it's going to have its pops, plenty of pops associated with it. But path of least resistance down as there's more information to come. There's more, you look at what the incentives of regulation agencies around the world is, the incentives are for them to come down hard. And we have seen some already do it. We've seen some a little more reluctant to do it. We see China using this as a card, and it is going to affect trade negotiations when it comes down to it. So, anyway, we have that going on, in terms of a little bit of drama out there. But when you look at the pre-market, you look at what's trading up, you look at where things are, this is still a tech-dominated market. And we talked about it yesterday. As goes tech, so goes the market. And if tech is going to hold up, if tech is going to be strong, the market's not going to go down. Regardless of the small caps and the transports and the financials, tech holds up, market's going to hold up. And, we are seeing some pre-market strength in tech. If you're looking for weakness to come in, you're looking for a place to sell this rally, wait till you see a little bit of weakness in tech. At least a little bit of weakness in tech. That always comes before, a sell-off. And, you can look at the usual suspects. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, or you can look at some of the microns. You can look at some of the AMDs. But, in general, just the tech index, the XLK, or even the Qs, even though the Qs aren't, entirely tech there, worth looking at. Now, another thing that's rallying here today, we talked about it yesterday, is oil. And oil is on the rise here this morning. Gold is on the rise here as well. If we take a look at GC, it's rallied. Gold futures have rallied here. If we look at the euro versus the U.S. dollar, you can see the euro's up a little bit, but dollar's not down all that much. We saw the API inventory data yesterday after the bell, and it created a little bit of movement. This is kind of what it created right here. But oil has pretty much strengthened overnight here on, some of the Brexit stuff. Okay, maybe that's not going to be as terrible as, expected in some ways. We've seen oil push on up. Now, we talked about this yesterday, and I'd love to play the short side on it, but, we looked at the patterns on the charts, and here we are with oil looking to break the highs from the last several weeks, right? And I mentioned that if it's able to break these highs and then fail on its breakout, that'd be a nice place to go and short it, okay, if it's able to break the highs and fail. And so, today, is it going to break the highs? Probably. It'll probably print a new high. And we will have the oil inventory data here in the U.S., that'll come out about an hour after the market opens. So we'll see some movement around that. And, if as the day progresses, we see oil fail, some other things become very interesting. Obviously, I'd like to go and short some Halliburton, but this little pattern right here, we talked about it yesterday. This is not a, hey, go short me right now pattern. This is a pattern of, we're probably not going up big, but we're probably not moving down anytime soon, where we're probably just going to chop for a little while. And, we see that in several of these oil names. So we'll be looking at it, here as the day progresses, for a, nice little entry out there. Now, gold is gapping up here this morning. And we talked about the long-term prospects for gold yesterday. And I would not be surprised to see the GDX, make a little run here today, pushing back up into the highs. Here overall, I don't think it's a great risk reward in the short run, in terms of, good stop level or anything like that. but direction-wise, the odds are strongly in the favor of continued move higher here for the GDX. So that's where some of the pre-market action is, and what's kind of set up here this morning. It's probably going to be one of these mornings where short sellers are going to get a little anxious and are going to need to back out a little bit in a few spaces. If you look at some of the more heavily shorted names out there, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of extra pop in them here early on this morning as those short sellers have to come out. That's a lot of what this rally does. It starts to break some of the levels that the short sellers are keying in on. We've seen some of those levels broken for the tech space, but we're going to start seeing some of those broken in other arenas here in the market today. And I would not be surprised to see some short-term pop here this morning that gets faded later on here in the day. And that would set up, if we saw that would set up some good risk reward for the Bears. But that's if we see that. That's if we see that. And right now, the Bears still have to sit after Monday's action. The Bears still have to sit and say, hey, when do I get my confirmation? When do I get my, when do I get action that changes? And so far, the Bulls have not given any of that, here to the Bears. So the Bears have one thing. The Bears have levels. The Bears have a little bit of overbought in the ultra short term. It's not even a good argument. But the Bears have levels, right? Keep in mind, the Bears had levels for a long time. The Bears had overbought for a long time all through this move, right? That's just not a good enough argument. But, we'll start to get to this level here of the upper Bollinger Band. We'll start to get to this level of these highs, right? Those levels will start to come in. But for me to want to load up, where things sit for the challenge, I'll wait for a little bit of confirmation because I do expect that if it does turn down, the length and magnitude of the downturn will be significantly greater than the small little pullback that we saw last week. Thanks for hopping on. I'll jump on a few hours after the market open here today. I want to give the market some time, for some things to kind of, play out, transpire here, and we'll kind of then go take a look at where some of the signals are. So maybe 2-3 hours after the market opens here today. Also putting together a piece, on some market emotions that has been requested of me, and so I may jump on and do that here either today or tomorrow, just depending on the overall market. I have a little bit more to prepare with it. I didn't get finished with it yesterday, but I'll be talking about that here, either today or tomorrow. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.